Hello. Uh, see the mic is good. Mm, mm, mm. See if we can talk how we can improve building the UI or building the web with web components the simpler way. Just okay. See, good. So let's start here. So let's think about how we normally build for the web, right? For example, I have this small project here. Use a creative height. Awesome tool here. So everything is blank. Just for this small CSS here. See, I could use Vite to create it. Nothing magical. So what was the traditional way? So let's do something simple. Uh, maybe login form, for example. You normally have the input here. Uh, it would probably be email. Give it a name for the server. And what is complaining here? No label, correct. So we just add a label. So here we're gonna say we don't need for if it is this. I'm gonna do a span. I'm gonna say email here. I'm gonna repeat this part here and make it a password. And make this password and password. And we will have a button, for example. So if you want to create something super vanilla, ready to go, so we're just gonna put a button to say login. And by default, buttons are submit types. So nothing to do here. Oh, I deleted it. Okay, good. So that's a simple form. If you want to run this to run a thing, we just do npm run local, which is the script that I created here to run Vite. Simple. And here I can use I'm using WebStorm, by the way. And I'm just going to do a built-in preview here. Seems like my WebStorm crashed. Oops. Not good, WebStorm. Bring this up again. No. So let's try this again. It's not a good start. And everything works now. I see if you're gonna behave now. If not, I'm gonna try Chrome. Oh, it worked. Stop. So I'm gonna close this. So we have our simple form here. Very simple. Email, password, login. So the traditional way you would normally go about this is you're probably gonna get the email field, for example. Normally, actually, I'm gonna use the Chrome to do this. So I can share this. So I open this on localhost 3000. I'm gonna move this right here because I want to look at the some console logs. So I'm gonna open this. Logs here, make sure we're good. Good is out. Simple thing. So we have a form, our label, the email, and the password field. La-di-da-di. You want to do this form, so without using React, without using Angular or anything else, which adds a lot of complexity. This is a plain HTML, JavaScript, in this case, TypeScript that I'm using here. So I'm just gonna shrink this so we can share space side by side. I have to change my display here real quick. Oh, actually, no, I can't. So we have here, try to go back and forth. So here, first thing I'm going to do is form. So I'm going to log. Seems like I lost it. Did I lose? Oh, cool. So here, I'm just going to log the form. So the way we can do we can do forms, document, forms. This is the only one I'm going to do. I find we can do this. And if I see here, we can see we get our forms. And I can also do this, I think. Hasn't been done forms in a while. So actually, let me see a little bit here. So when I check the forms, anyway, I think you can do forms name. Let's see what that prints out. Nothing. Anyway, so the traditional way is email field. I forgot how to use the form to get all the fields. So document forms. I know we only got it forms. Uh, it's very complex, right? You have to remember all these things. Pass field will be password. And because this is a type thing, I'm gonna do type. I hope I haven't forgot how to do DOM stuff. And then we're gonna do email field, password. Nobody wants to work like this, correct? So here we got the two fields, perfect. And then you want to get your form too. So document forms 0. I'm gonna do add event listener. We're gonna look for the submit and give it a callback. And we're gonna log the event. And the event will come from here. Beautiful. Let me see. I'm not gonna do this. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna event prevent default so we don't have to do remove everything. Perfect. So if I come here, I submit my thing, good. I have my submit event and it's all good. That's how you normally would work the vanilla way. The better way would be maybe wrap this thing up here on the efi function. This will encapsulate so it doesn't split and then it runs on application load. So that is much protected. But what if I tell you like we can do we can still do things in the page like this and we can do more stuff. So here, better handle this. So for here, I'm gonna install CWCO. And here, I'm gonna do import and import CWCO. Here, I'm going for here. I'm gonna looking for context provider. So context provider is a special component. So here I'm going to create the form control, a class called form controller. Extends this, and we can just register. Just like that, I created a component, but this is pretty much like a utility component. So I'm just registering this. So the component, my tag name is form controller. I'm going to close this guy. And then when I come here, what I can do, I can say form controller. Oh, create this, and then I'm going to register my form here, just like that. So if we look at the page, it still renders fine. So we can take a look here. We still have a form controller is wrapping our form. We have a label, buttons, nothing. Everything works as normal. So nothing changed. It's not preventing anything. So here, uh, uh, one thing I can get, so instead of query selector, what I can do, I can come here and say ref. I'm going to say email. And I'll also come here and say ref. I'm going to say password. Just like that, when I come back here, and I can listen to when the component is added to the page. And I don't need this. And all I'm going to log is my refs. So go to my refs. It didn't complain. Good. So when I come look here, we can see that we have two things. We have the reference for the email. We have the reference for the password. So that's the quickest way we can do query selector or selected things. So that's ref is the same as using React. I believe the same as you use, always very similar how you do in Angular or other stuff as well. So this is how you reference something. But I want to reference the form, right? And what I can do, I can come here. I'm going to say on submit. One thing it does too nice is I'm going to go to handle submit. This function doesn't exist yet, and I'm going to remove this reference. Well, I'm going to cap the reference actually. Come back here, and then I'm going to remove this. I don't need this. I'm going to create this function. Good. And if I go back, there we have the function connected to this. But if you look at this in the page, if you look at this form, we can see that the form does not have the onSubmit inline there. It's because CWCO removes any event listeners, inline event listener, because it's not good, and it's clean up. So if I click here, so one thing I can tell it is I can actually give it an event, a capacity event, and then here I can listen to the event, I can grab the event and log the event, and event. And one first thing I'm going to do is event prevent default. Show it's is the real event. Default. I have too many snips. So it's complaining about type. So I work with TypeScript here. I'm going to say it's just type. I say JLee is referring is too small. What about this? Let me know if this is much better. There's no way to set the reference. So if I make this smaller. Good. So we have our handle submit here, which is handling the thing. So if I come back to the page here, when I click my submit, see, I just got everything. So here is much a better way. So I just pretty much created a component, wrap it around something, and then reference it all fine. And then here, what I can do, I can then reference my refs. So I can do something like const, and I'm gonna equal this, and I know I gave it two names. I need an email and password. Password, and it's complaining a little bit. This is TypeScript, so we know that we created two reference called email, another reference called password. See, when I come here, I'm gonna fix this. So it doesn't think. So I'm gonna say you're gonna have an email, which is gonna be HTML input field element. And you're gonna have a password, and they're both optional. So here we can just get the file. Oh, we can further the structures. Email field. Rename it because I want to get. Actually, I want to do a data const data. I'm going to email here. I'm going to email value and password. Password value. So I think it's complaining this. That might be no, correct? So here I'm going to just log my data. Data. So this is just for types. So if I come back here and I click submit, and we see that email and password is empty, and I do some email and make it this 200%. Some at email.com, secret as password, and now we could log in. And then we have the email and secret there. Just simple code, and already grabbing everything, just grabbing the control here. So instead of dealing all the stuff, and it's much nicer to to grab things. So what if I want to do validation, for example? What if I want to do some error? Um, some error here. If we run this, we can see that some error appears there. I'm actually going to put a p tag here. Normally I wouldn't. So some error. So here I'm going to give it a class error. Come back here in the style. I'm going to probably create something real quick. Some error. So I'm going to background. I'm going to do red color. Make it white. I'm going to do some padding. Just maybe 5 pixels. And then border radius of 2 pixels again. So just like that. Come back and see the error shows up. So we have the email and the password error. So I'm gonna go and add the password error. So good. Password here. So here, just more things. We can also get a ref from here. Email error. But I want to do this because I already have the input. So if we come back here, I don't know why it resets. So here, we can do a couple things. So we want to do validation. So, but also we want to handle the data. So I'm going to create this data here for email, which is going to be empty. I'm going to do a password. Maybe this should be a login controller instead of form controller. So it's much generic. So we can say this data email equals. Actually, we're not going to need this. So I'm going to delete everything here because we're not going to need that. So what I want to do is want to validate the field on input. So validate on input. and validate on input, we'll get an event, which will be event. And I'm going to destructor here. So I'm going to get the target directly. And I'm going to log the target here. Target value. Does event takes HTML input field? I think is not generic. Okay. If I do, TypeScript, HTML event. It's much better here. So we're gonna get field value. So handle on input. So how we're gonna do this? So we're gonna come back here. Very simple. We're gonna do on input, call this event, call this method, and pass in the event. As well as here. So did anything? Okay. Perfect. So if we look at this in the browser, see some error here. Let's look at how it renders. So again, we don't see the inline event handler. So that all got removed. No errors, everything's good. So what if when we input something? So I'm going to try to input so we can see the input there. I'm going to password there. So one thing I can do is make sure to detect which field has been action on. So we can do switch field name. Field name would be probably all uppercase, or it's just going to be the name that I assign it. I think I did, yeah. So we're going to do it here. Okay, so we have email and we have the password. So we can do handle under here. So normally you want to handle each by itself. So demonstration only. So we're going to handle email here. I'm going to handle password. So here we're going to do a couple checks. We're going to make sure if, oh, by the way, and then here the first thing we're going to do is put in the data. So this data email is equal field value for both. We could actually use the email name. In data is complaining is going to this, so normally it's going to be anything. Oh, we know it's going to be, yeah, it's going to be any. It could be string, boolean, anything. So now data is good. So here we're going to go data. We handle email, and we're going to handle this. So we know it is always going to update the data. So when we submit, I'm just going to log the data here that we need to submit. I'm not going to handle anything for now. Just keep it blank like this. Go back to HTML, it was good. If we come back to the console here, we're gonna handle this real quick, and we're gonna put some stuff. If I'm just gonna complain, some email.com secret. So if you log in, okay, now we have the data here, email and secret, perfect. So we're collecting data, and we're doing this when there is an input. So how are we gonna validate this? So also gonna do errors. Just gonna be the same thing here. We can do errors here. We don't have to put this at this point. We have data, we have errors. And here we're gonna check. We're gonna just do errors name is equal. We're gonna just do regex here. We're gonna make sure we have just gonna make sure it's. I'm gonna do a very simple regex, not at. Then we're gonna at. And then we're gonna do some word. 0 A to Z. Make sure it's at least one. Then we have a dot and escape. And we're gonna have Z. Uh, A to Z. And may have some zero in number, so it doesn't matter here. And we're gonna test field value. If it's pass, we're gonna put empty. We're gonna do null. Otherwise, we're gonna do invalid email. Boom. And we're gonna do password. And we're gonna just make sure it's at least um, at least 8 characters. Doesn't matter. Invalid password. Normally, there's no log validation and login. It's kind of tricky to do in the front end. It's probably not recommended. You're not supposed to tell them what's wrong. Have them guessing. So just for demonstration. So here, one cool thing I can do. Oops. I can actually render my errors. So I can just say errors here. And let's look. See empty now. And I can say only render this paragraph if errors.email if errors.email, and then only render this if there is an error for password. So now we don't worry about hiding this or not. So that's how you handle this. Oh, it's definitely not error. So I got the error there. It's errors, not error. So there you go. Now we don't have the field showing, and it's just there. So if I do, where we got an error already. Probably that was not. So let's do something much better. Let me not be lazy. So we're gonna expecting A to Z 0 to 9. I'm gonna export underscore, probably dash as well, and just that. And it must be at least one. A to Z at least one. And these needs to be at least 2 characters. So let's try this again. So if some, what am I doing wrong? Okay. So you see, so if it's blank, it's gonna get an error. There's some email.com, and then it goes away. So just simple there, get that invalidation there. So here, as long as we have there, as long as we pass 8 characters, we good, and then we can submit. But we see have this button always available, so we don't want to do that. Well, we're gonna disable that. So what we can do this is gonna say we're gonna use the attribute. So I'm gonna say attribute disabled, and I'm gonna create. Let me just remove this for now. I'm gonna create a getter that tells me whether there is any of errors. So I'm gonna do a getter here. Get has errors. It's a getter, so I'm gonna return. What is the best way to do this without being very specific? So we can do Java keys, and we can say look for these errors, look for the keys and the errors, or maybe values. Look for all the values. So if some val, so we know if it's no error is gonna be null. If we have error is gonna be there. So if any of these val is equal is different than null, we know we have an error. So it has errors, and we can come here and display it. So we're gonna come all the way to the top. We're gonna do this has errors, and we're gonna try this again. This error is false, as you can see here. So we can see it now it's true. Some email. Now it's false. Then password secret. So now it has false. So we're gonna use this as errors to tell it to put to the button disabled or not. So the way we go, we can say attributes dot disabled, which is the attribute we want, and has errors. Disable, so set attribute disables. Set attribute disable if has error, so it's true. So here we're gonna look at has errors probably. Has errors should automatically be true. So right now we don't want to. Oh, we also want to make sure these are empty. Uh, has values. There's other ways to check there. Has values. So it has values if all the data has values, all the data is different than empty. Here. So we're probably gonna trim here. Make sure. So by default is string. See the email. By default it's gonna be this. Password. Gonna be this. The reason is we want to make sure we don't enable buttons if there's no value. So I'm gonna go back here. I'm gonna print as values. I'm gonna print it here as in use as value. The reason I'm using a this here is because it's a getter. Otherwise, I'll just not use the this. But you can use the this anywhere. Here, the this always reference to the class. So it's like we are in the class here. So this is always welcome. So it has values false. So as soon as this, so has values come true. As soon as we go empty, it becomes false. And we can check as errors. As errors. So we know when there's errors. So we had false, false for both. There's no errors and also there's no values. So if we put this, you see they're both good. They're both true because there is values and there's errors. I'm going to put some email and we should see that, yeah, it has values true, it has errors false. So we want to be disabled if both, you want to be disabled if it has errors and has no values. Just writing TypeScripts here. So here, oh, let's see if this, so let me grab something here. Oh, I'll check. Oh, it's an end. Disable if it has errors, or, or, what am I missing here? me see. True. Oh, the problem is attribute, not attributes. So you see, we disable. I'm not putting everything in plural here. So disable is if it has errors or no values. We're gonna delete this guy and we're gonna try this again. So you see now it's disabled. And let's do some email. And then we become disabled. I noticed that when we have errors, just say some errors, which is hard coded. So here we're gonna come and say errors email to display what the error is. And we're gonna do the same here for password, errors, password. So now when we have some error, we're gonna say invalid email. If we have thing, we're gonna say invalid password. Good. And that's a simple way to handle forms in general. So just wrap your form, whatever component, set up general hooks like you normally would do it, and handle everything here. One thing is probably what you can do is class login form extends web component, for example. So the template here, we're just gonna return a slot. So login form here. I'm gonna also register this. So we have a login form. Just gonna render this, and actually can also grab this. And come back here. Oops. Format this a little bit. And we may also move everything here inside, so we don't have to do this control. So we're gonna get rid of control. And you may also put it in a component, or instead of working in the thing. So I'm gonna move this template here all the way up. Here. And it's gonna reference the same. So this, all I did was the same thing as here. So I'm gonna remove this guy here because it's not used. So again, refs, we have the data, we have the errors, we have the getter, which is gonna give us, if it has errors as values, we have the template, which is the form. We just add in HTML. We have the two events, handle submit, and we handle validate, and just like that. So look, everything's smaller here. So very small. So here we can just say login form. See if that works. And there you go. We have our login form just as easy. Still everything works. So oh, now we have the problem with the style. So the style here is because I put the style global here. And by default, the component is using shadow root. So you can see here, use a shadow root. So before when we had on the page, it was, well, part of the body. So it was accessible by the CSS. So, but this time is inside the shadow root, it cannot access. So what we can do, we can move this inside. So same way we declare here the template, we can also declare the style sheet. There's many ways we can do that. So let me do style sheet, and we're gonna return some style. So return. I can also do this. So if I come here, I copy the errors, and I can just put it here, uh, just like this. And if I do this, now we see the test, now the style applies. Pretty simple. Or I can just do object. I can just do this as an alternative. So error is whatever likes you like more. So background. So they like you. The advantage here, it might give you autocomplete actually. Another option is this, which is much better. So instead of doing this, because it doesn't get light, so that it was in my, even though it worked, is because CWCO is taking care of this, is putting in a style tag for me, so that's all good. But we can also put this in our style tag, so we can have as many style tag inside here if you want. And you see my editor already picks it up. He recognizes it as CSS, so that's one way. Good. And this library also, I think this library is only 10 kilobyte compressed. We can look at the browsers here. We can just duplicate here so we can see backgrounds. 9, we can see it also autocompletes the text. We're gonna do color. So my ID also thing is because this return is typed. We can do color, which is white. We had there. We can do padding. This is whatever style you want to do this. You can do object, or you can do thing. You can also do things like nesting, which you cannot do in here. So I could do something like span tag, for example, and then put a style for that span tag inside error, which will be good. But you cannot do that in plain CSS. So I like this much better. So border. So see my thing already auto completes. Border radius to pixels. So just styling as an object. So that's an option. So if you can look there, you can do this and it style still works. Perfect. So you can take a look. Let's take a look at how much this library weighs. So you can see here. Oh, my thing is very small. 200 kilobytes. Oh, this is not minimized. So let's look at, yeah, this is not minimized because I can just see all the code. So this is not minimized. So not minimized 200. Minimize very small. Good. So you see, it allows you to everything, and it allows you to do style here. You can do. Uh, let's try to do something more. So let's try to do a little more. So let's see. We have a form. What's the normal things that we normally do on the page? So one thing I like is you can create playground. So let's say I want to create a to-do app. I would just want to explore some interface. I want us to explore how the HTML normally looks, right? I can just do app to do. It's nice because I just imported it and I can just use it directly on the HTML, or I can use it in the JavaScript. Using direct HTML means your code, when served from the server, will already work. So can be server side rendered and will just work. Let me increase the zone here. Then we can just hide this guy, make it more here. So far, when I go to app to do here, nothing. So I'm gonna do h2 to do app. Taking consideration, I didn't create this app to do yet. So by default, it would just handle like it would just ignore it because there's no logic behind this app to do. So I'm just gonna comment this guy out and put it all the way to the bottom here. So let's create this. So I'm going to use the context provider and a web component. See, a context provider already works in the HTML directly, which is uh, easier to work, and it does couple handling of the, for example, slot tags. So I can do, so how do I call it? I call app to do. Maybe I call it to do app. What's app to do? To do app. To do app sound matter. So I can do to do app extends. Oh, what is this? Here. So just like that, I created a web component. Now I need to tell the browser about this component. And like that. Just like that, I create an app. Ta-da. So here, I come back here. We can see the to the app still works, but now the browser recognizes this. And I can prove you. So I can just say app title to app. So we can just say here, we can say app title. And it still works just fine. So we can use curly braces to reference data inside a class just fine. And you can use curly brace, or you can also do bind. There's a special attribute you can do bind app title, and just, oh no, I think you need curly braces. Yeah, you need curly braces to do that in directive. So like that, we just put the title in the page. And I want to do general things like, let's say I want a div. So to do item, this is the quickest way you can explore things. And I want this element. So what this allows me to do is templating, which is nice. You get templated right back in your HTML. So, and it looks like HTML. It's just use web standards here. So nothing that you don't know already. So I want this to repeat, and I want to repeat it 3 times. So I want this div to repeat 3 times, and every time it repeats, I'm gonna put oh, probably I'm gonna put this h1. Oh no, I'm gonna leave that h1 2. I'm gonna do a h3 here, and then I'm gonna say to do. I'm gonna kill the brace again. So the repeat creates this. So this is contextual. So what this repeat does, it already creates an item that I can use. I can reference this using $sign and do item and like that. So we can go back and we see that it creates 3 to-dos. So I have to do 1, 2, 3. I can also name it as to do as n, and I can do n. Now it still works. So I just rename as say repeat 3 times and as n, and then that's where I'm gonna do this. So what I can also do, I can come here and I can say to-dos. It's gonna be an empty array. I can come back here, and then instead of this, I'm gonna say app to-dos, repeat for the app to-dos, as to-do. And I'm gonna put to-do title here. To-do title. And I'm gonna back here. I'm gonna create a couple things. I'm gonna do title to-do 1. I'll say go to gym. And subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to BFS. Like this video. This video for support. Just like that. So now when we go here, we see our app render this. So by the way, I don't need to log anymore. So what I'm gonna do, so we can see everything live, so I don't have to switch this. So we have this. So perfect. So I just created the data. and I'm referencing that data. See, my microphone is bugging here. So I add some data there, and he's just populating it. So it's just super easy to work with it. So one other thing we can do, and here we can do actions. So actually, let's add an action to create this thing. So I'm gonna do controls here. I'm gonna create a button here. I'm gonna create a button here. Say add to. To see if you can guess it. So I come here. I'm just gonna make it empty. Perfect. And I'm gonna create a component. Say add. So create to do. And what it's gonna do is prompt. So I'm gonna do a name. I'm gonna get a name from the user. So I'm gonna use window prompt because I don't want to create a component. Window prompt to do name. Enter to do name. Perfect. And name. So create to do gets called by the HTML here. So here I'm gonna do on click. And on click, I want you to create to do. Simple. When add to do is clicked, so when I click add to do, see we have the prompt here. I'm gonna say, first I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna do alert name. So again, when I click here, buy shoes. Then save it. Buy shoes. So we have it has alerts for buy shoes. Pretty simple. So here, what we're gonna do, we're gonna make sure the name exists. So we're gonna trim it. If name exists, what is it gonna say? Possibly null. That's why I use JavaScript. That's how I use TypeScript. So I'm gonna make sure it's empty fallback. So name here. Um, so if there is a name, I'm gonna do this app to do's push name. I'm gonna put completed false. This thing is a little confused, so I'm just gonna do any just so for the sake of not having these types of things. So here we're gonna pushing this, and here on the HTML we rendering the title. So this is our to do item here. So to dos. So we can have context. So we rendering. So we say we're going for each item, and we're putting the title, rendering the title, and I'm gonna put a paragraph, and I'm gonna say uh, to do completed. This is what I called it. That's it. Completed. Completed. I'm gonna say complete. Say done. Otherwise, let's say in progress. In progress. So run it app. So we have nothing. So I create here. So buy shoes. Save. And we have in progress. Oh, seems like the name didn't render. Oh, because I call it name. Oh, I'm gonna call it name here. So let's try it again. Buy shoes. And there you go. We have buy shoes in progress. Probably this is much better if I put this one here. Bold. Put down new line so we can see this better. We have H3, which renders the to-do name. And when it's completed, put done. Otherwise, it's in progress. Just that simple. So let's try it again. Buy shoes. So, oh, something happened. Oh, Seems like it just saved. Buy shoes. You worked before. Buy shoes in progress. Good. Nah, I don't like this anymore. I'm gonna do this. Emphasis. Like that. So of course when I save, the data goes away because I'm not. Okay, so that's very simple way to do a simple create to do it. So let's handle um, delete. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna add an ID, so it's much easier. So ID, I'm gonna do date now, just the date. So now we're gonna do a delete to do, and it's gonna take an ID. ID is gonna be a number, and here we're just gonna alert ID. The reason I'm alerted because I don't have logs here, console to go look. So I'm just gonna alert. So here, for each to do, when I render them, I'm gonna put a button, say delete, and on click, I'm gonna call delete to do, and I'm gonna pass the to do ID, just like that. So the to do is this guy here that I repeated. On click, I'm gonna delete it. First, I'm gonna create one, buy shoes. When I click, I should get an alert, so we see the ID there. Pretty straightforward. So now let's handle it to do remove. So here, one thing I want to highlight is I want you to appreciate that this library is detecting that I did a push in an object that has a nested array and is detecting deeply. I'm not reassigning this. So this library it doesn't detect changes only based on reassigns like you would in React and a lot of frameworks out there, um, which is a bummer. You have to in React you have to set state so to tell the application that something changed. And here I'm just working normally. So I'm just creating. So the only thing different here is I extended this thing. That's it. Everything here is very straightforward JavaScript. I didn't have to adapt the way I code in order to work with the framework. So this none of this is framework specific or the library specific to this library. This is something to appreciate here. You're just working normally like you would, just creating class, and you calling methods, you doing this, you doing that. It just works. It's automatically detecting that I did a push to the to-dos, and it knows to render everything again because the to-dos list just changed. So similar here, I can just say this app to-dos filter. Or here I'm going to have to do a reassign uh, to-do to-do ID different than ID. So here I'm just gonna have to reassign. So that's the only place I'm reassigning here. So here I'm reassigning TypeScript. TypeScript was not a good idea for demonstration. So it's too much time spending on types. So here I'm reassigning, but here I'm just doing a push. And either way is detecting my changes. So I'm gonna do, let's try this again. Buy shoes, and I'm gonna delete, and it's gone. See, just gone. I think the better way to do this is to prompt. So I'm gonna do window confirm. Are you sure you want to delete this? So now when I create this by shoes, Delete. Say, are you sure you wanted this to do? If I cancel, nothing happens. If I click OK, it's gone. So one thing to appreciate is that tiny detail. Nothing here is specific to nothing. It's just me coding JavaScript. No hooks, no funny syntax, no weird way to tell it what to do. It's just doing a lot of work for me, and it's something to appreciate. And I'm just working straight in the HTML. And you see there's no funny way to do on click. It's just normal on click. It's just normal thing. It comes with some attributes that I can use. For example, repeat here. I just showed you the ref. There's many. I think there's only five of these things. There's repeat. We say there's if. Um, and there's if. There is ref. Um, there's attribute one, which you like to dynamically set attributes on things. Um, let's do a couple things from styles, which I didn't do here. So here I can say style sheet. So one thing you can do, you can also link external style sheet here. So you don't have to, for example, I could do a link rel style sheet href, I believe. href, some, I don't know, style CSS. So this works. I'm going to show you. I believe, yeah. So here I can just say, I don't know, the h2. Just to show I'm just gonna remove this here. So you don't say that's the way it's important to style. So here I can just say h2 background. I believe that's how it works. So let's find out. Do I have h2 here? We do have h2. Why it didn't work? Why it didn't work? I believe I'm doing something correct. So let me just double check. Seems like I had an error. Oh, I get 4-4, so maybe the path is not correct. So just to show you here, I got a 4-4 here on a style sheet. Maybe when you do path, you have to change the. So basically, he's trying to fetch this guy. Anyway, but that's not what I'm gonna do. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna say, let me try to use. So I'm gonna say to do item here. Actually, don't have to do this. So let's say on here, what I want to do is I want to say on mouse over. I can just do this, some logic. I'm gonna say event, target, style, color equals red. By shoes. Oh, canceled it. So you see when I'm hovering, it's becoming red. So we can just do mouse leave color initial. So we can do color, and then when we move, color is not resetting for everything. Oh, there's a reset. Oh, I'm gonna do black. Buy shoes. It's definitely not resetting. But this is just to highlight. Oh, current target will be. So what it's doing is updating deeply. So here, current tag. So we only tagging the thing we hovering over. So you see now it just pretty smoothly working. And the good thing is none of this is kept. So if you see here, so if we create something here, buy shoes. So I put this one to the side here. We can see to do item here. We say color is black. We can see it changes dynamically. And also pay attention that when it changes, it only changes where it needs to change. You don't see the entire element re-render, or it just knows it needs to update the style, specifically the style. So, and all you see, it's updating the style attribute. You don't see anything else changing. And this is how the update is just awesome on this thing, because it's just target where it needs to update and where the things needs to happen, rather than trying to make a guess. So only the things that change needs to be updated, or anything that uh, so you can see it can just do inline, and you didn't see the event still on the item here. You didn't see the on mouse event. Uh, you didn't see anything of that. So it just clears everything up. So you make sure it translates all those things into event listeners that you can. That's much better than inline event handlers. Pretty slick. All right. So, and that's a simple to-do app. It's like this. You can see here, create to-do app. Delete. So I'm just creating a class. I'm just working normally. It just what this does, it tells it that this class has a user interface handler, and I can put that anywhere I want. I can just put it directly on the page, or I can just move on here and just put it inside get template. So so it uses web standards. So even on the so if I just move this now, everything's going to disappear because well, the template is now defined here. See, this takes precedence. So it's just using web standards. So in the web we have templates. So we do have. So I'm just going to remove that template there. So you use names like style sheets, templates, and uh, everything stays the same. So you don't have to learn anything new besides learning the 5 directives that you need to learn, and then use curly braces, and everything else is just straight HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. No funny syntax. And it's just web standards here. It's just using all the complex, it's doing all the complex web component handling in the background for you. And I don't know if you, I have a couple of videos in this channel where, for example, create an audio player. You can see how complex creating something like that can get by using web components, pure API. And this thing is just using everything, just doing everything in the background for you, and on top of that is doing more special things like handle inline events, which you can do with web components without having to do query selector. You don't even have to use the DOM to do references or grab things. You can just work directly on the HTML like the HTML and the JavaScript is just connected, just one. So that's something to appreciate. And here on the JavaScript, it is unopinionated. Just code how you normally code. Let the library handle the rest. Let it handle the update, let it handle the detection, let it handle the figuring out where this thing needs to change based on your data change. And just code normally. You don't have to assign everything. You just have to call some method for everything. Just normal code. Uh, and that's it. And you can create any components. You can nest them. You can do whatever you want. I actually have I think my last two videos published is all creating components using this library, which is very powerful. It's very light as well. So that's how you do your thing right in HTML. What else can we do? What else would be interesting to test this thing? Yeah, ideas. Let's play with life cycles a little bit. Gonna I'm gonna use web component now. Let me. I'm gonna do a countdown. I'll call it count down extends web component. So that's the normal web component here. Countdown. We're gonna register this guy. So this is how we tell the browser, hey, this is the component, and the register here is doing a lot of magic stuff. Like it's looking at your class name and then creating your component, defining your component for you, and you just use the class name to tell how the component will call. So for this, I'm just going to use template, and all we're going to do, I'm going to do a time, which is going to be new date. So as soon as this thing mounts, it's going to do time. So all I'm going to do is return. Uh, you don't have to do ticks, by the way. You can just do this. Template readers doesn't make sense here. It doesn't matter. Like doing something like there's like let you do something like this is using temporarily. This means nothing for this thing. You can just remove the dollar sign because that's not how it handles things. So I can just say time here. So we can come back here. I can do a countdown. By the way, the link for this thing is in the description. Countdown. So I'm gonna that's thing. So here we're gonna see the time. All we're doing is checking the time. So it's just rendering the time. So let me push this thing a little further down. 1 second here. Okay, so we can make this to uh, to local string. I believe that's what they call local string. So we have a time looking way much better here. So we know today's 25th of June, and it's 1:25 p.m. where I need to go grab lunch. So what's special here? So countdown needs to count down. So here is what very specific is. So I have access to amount, which allows me to do stuff. So here, one thing that outmount does as well, it takes a return. The return is what you need to do when the component outmounts. There's also on destroy if you want to do that there. This is handles when the component is removed from the page. That's it. So here I'm gonna return. So I'm gonna create a timer. Set interval. I'm gonna create an interval. Set interval. Make this smaller. And the interval that's gonna happen every second. And here, all I'm gonna do is do this again. Gonna update the time. This time is equal to date. And here, I can either do this on destroy, but I don't have access to the internal interval here, which is makes it bummer to create a property just for that. So I can just return a new function, which also does a cleanup. This is it gets run before the on mount. So before the on mount that I just showed, it's called. This gets called. So I can say clear interval, and I want to pass it interval. That's how. So on mount countdown is just as simple as that. So if I save, we're gonna see that our thing is counting. So we have a countdown. Oh, it is actually not counting down. It's actually counting up. Ah, that's not what I had in mind. Maybe the countdown is not, say, show time. So time display. Oh, live time. Yeah, countdown doesn't make sense. That's not what I had in mind. Live time. Live time will update the time every second, and you can do that. So I can also receive attributes. So I wanted to be able to tell it the format. The format is kind of interesting here. So let's handle that. So I want to tell it format to be, I don't know, how do you do it for a date? I'll say day. I wish I had something. I think I had something that I created long ago, so I'm gonna find it on GitHub. So I'm just gonna put it here so you can show. So we see this is before semicolon here, so I can go into maybe it's not BFS projects. I can go to string tutorial files. Definitely not here. This is where you find all the files for the tutorial. So I was shared. There are JavaScript solutions. And what I want is I want a date formatter. That's what I want. I'm just gonna copy this and come back to our application. I'm gonna call here, I'm gonna call date. Is a simple solution. I'm gonna export this guy. Format date. And here on the back on our code, I'm gonna do a getter. So get formatted date or time. Oh, date is fine. So here I'm just gonna return format date. I'm gonna pass it this time. Maybe date is much better. So when the component is created, it creates a property date. And on mount, when the component is added to the DOM, it sets an interval that updates date every second. And when the component mounts, it will clear that time so it doesn't lingers there trying to update, which is memory leak. And in the template, we just rendering this time, local string, and we have get formatted date. So here, instead of this, I'm gonna do first we're gonna have to handle the format. So I have to pass the format. So if you check the format date, it takes the date and it takes a format string. For example, by default, it's gonna do this. So let's go back here and get format date, get formatted date. So here we're gonna do this. Oh, I'm gonna say formatted date because this is already a getter. Formatted date. So there you go. By default, it is displaying June 25th, uh, 2000, 2020, 2022. Damn. pandemic stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna hide this because this is not important. So how does it handle this? The way it handles attribute is the same as native web component. So I can say static. Why isn't it auto completed for me? Attributes. And here we're gonna call format. So format is a special. So what I'm saying is you're gonna receive a format attribute. And on mount, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna log this format. And format, I can give you the default. So I can do format is equal. So let me see, what's the format here? Format day. So by default is doing month, month, day. So we know the time. So this is only handle date, get full year, say the week, getting the date, which is the day of the month, and we have the month, get month, and probably need to do a time. So we're gonna do extend this. I'm gonna say hour. Age is gonna be get hour. I don't need this. We're gonna do M. It's gonna be get minutes. S is gonna be get seconds. Hour is gonna be 2H. M is gonna be seconds. No. Get hours, get minutes, get seconds. So we go back here. By default, is gonna say month full like this, and we're gonna do day, and then we're gonna do year, and then we're gonna do time, which is gonna be hour, minutes, second. By default, that's gonna be the format. So here, so I'm telling it, hey, you're gonna receive, like, let me know when this attribute changes, and this attribute by default will have this value. And here I'm logging this value. And here I'm gonna pass this formatted date. So if I save this, I'll run into problems. Where's am I gonna? Oh, I'm gonna alert this. So by default, alert only takes one thing. Oh, this is because. Okay, so I'm gonna remove this first. So it's already working. So we see by default, this is the format. So I'm gonna click OK, and see it's gonna render there our thing. So I'm gonna say format, and I'm gonna put minutes. I'm gonna do day. I can put anything here. I can put age, hours, minutes, and second. So here, I need to get rid of this alert now. Very annoying. So save here. So we see now we have just time. I can come back here. I can just say seconds, seconds. No, it's just so seconds. There you go. So just like that, I created my component, and I can create many of these. I can do hour, minutes, seconds. So we have there. You can see it updates pretty nicely. Everything is synchronized. I'm sorry. So we have everything here. You can update. You see the cool thing is this. I wrote this a long ago. So this is my lifetime thing. I can also give it a button. Is one cool thing is like because it's in the DOM, it has all the good and bad about the DOM. So for example, I'm gonna say remove. And here I can say on click, say remove. this star remove. And the this refers to the component. So if I run this, if I remove, and it goes away. If I click this, it goes away. So the this means the components, the element. So I can just call normal HTML. Let me show you this method. HTML element, just Googling it, remove. So we can see I'm just calling the remove method on the element. And this refers to the element. The class represents the element. And I can call any HTML element valid things there. So here in this case, on click, I'm just calling to call. I'm just calling remove on the this, which is the element itself. So you can do something like that. You see there is no lick nor anything. See this thing already handle that a component was removed and all done. Token for reface again. Oh, uh, so remove again. There you go. Still good. I don't know how do you refresh this. To refresh it, then maybe I need to do a change. Okay, yeah, I have to do a change to make a refresh. So yeah, so that was a little bit of life cycle. You can also, I can also listen to when things change. For example, I can detect every time this date changes. So like on that case, I can do on update, and that's like that. So I can just log instead of this. I'm just gonna log. And it tells me what the old value was and what's the new. I'm just gonna go here, localhost, so I can show you here. We can see here, we can see the new, the old, and see, so it keeps logging there. So update is the is your place to handle, to observe, not to do everything, but just to observe two things. You're probably not gonna want to update, reset a value there, because then you would cause an update and we have a infinite loop. And yeah, this is pretty much life cycle. I already showed the events, a little bit of attributes, and it's beyond um, what you can imagine that you could do with this. So I think I'm gonna leave it at that. So this is website. So I built this. It's called CWCO. It's contextual web components. I think I can show you a little bit of web context, but 'cause, the way it does context is actually I can show you a little bit here in the context. See what context means is sometimes we have components. You see, context is just like React context, just to get it to. So you create something just to tell it what to start, where to start, and then you can just update stuff. The difference between the context data and the normal data, like we just have created like this, is that any component at any level in the tree can access the context of its ancestor. So that is cool. That means you don't have to drill down attribute values component by component. You can just define it on the top level, and then everything is defined. It's everything will inherit it. So it's just all you have to do is create a static property called initial context, or you don't have to do this. You can just call update context on the element. It will just create the data where you want to share with every component inside. So context is much powerful because it allows you to skip the implicit data passing between components Sometimes you need that, like your locale strings. You want to pass that. You want to maybe the store data or the global data. You don't need to be passing down all the components. You just define on a top level component, and you know that every component will use it. Maybe you creating a page that the users needs, and you don't have to specify that you need that every component can access the user information. For example, every component can just say user, and then it will just work. Yeah, I'm gonna leave you at that. This was Contextual Web Components Library for you. Check it out at cuco.io and CWCO.io. And for everybody that stick around and check the live, thank you for watching. Catch you next one.